welcome everyone to the deep dive, which is where we find out more about Mitch. So I have some great questions here for you. Now, I understand from your elevator pitch, from your wonderful polished elevator pitch, that you work with keynote speakers. So what is it that you do exactly in light of this whole COVID situation? Describe this to us.
Sure. So what's interesting is that I've been doing this all along, but the people who seem to have come out of the woodwork, of course, are keynote speakers who lost their stage. It's just that simple. And as you said, some of these folks were in the $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year range, and now are back to zero. Some over the years had started building their online presence or their coursework. Others never even bothered. I have a new client who's starting Wednesday, who's never done anything other than speak from stage. I think he's written down what it is his true transformation is. So what I typically do with folks, the very first thing I do is I discover whether that's their true passion and calling. Sometimes it's not, and sometimes they fell into this because they just were asked to, and it just kind of took off from there. But what I try to do is I try to align their true passion with their profession. And even if it means staying in the same profession, but changing the perspective on it and the way they view it is key to success, basically, to growing a company and to becoming more successful. So once we're aligned and we understand what their life purpose is, what their true why is, at that point, what I do is I look at what you as a keynote speaker are trying to accomplish. And in many cases, you have a much bigger mission than just speaking on stage. So ideally, what we're trying to do is encapsulate the process that you would take someone through if they were truly being transformed by you, and take that process and move it into an environment where people can do in a self-service, self-learning system, but followed after the presentation. So what would happen is you'd still get into a Zoom room, you'd still have 500 or 1,000 people in your room, or whatever number that may be, even if it's a few hundred or a few dozen. Once you cause the emotional transformation, that's when we kick into what I basically think of as the accountability part of the program. So you could stand up on stage and you could transform everybody in the audience, and they will be so emotionally invested in what you had to say. You will press all the right buttons. They will feel all the right feelings. And then they look at their watch and go, okay, well, it's time to go. And yeah.
Disaster.
So, well, I mean, that's unfortunately what humans, those pesky humans, that's what they're like, So the goal is to transform what that speech was, or that moment in time where you emotionally hook somebody, and transform that into the beginning of something far more powerful. And that means taking what you said and what you were trying to communicate and convert it into a process so that people can experience growth gradually, but consistently as they move through the transformation that you're trying to create with them and for them. Make sense so far?
Well, you know what? I was just thinking, I would love it if Mitch gave us an example of someone who he did that for. And then that might give us a more concrete idea rather than just, theory.
Okay, perfect. I have a fantastic keynote speaker, a woman who's been just lighting stages on fire for many, many years. And she was doing quite nicely when I met her. She was introduced to me, and when I started to work with her, we discovered some key things about her that were not part of what she was doing. And so the first thing we did is we decided that we could incorporate those key elements, because those are her strengths. So think of them as power centers. Inside of human beings, we have chakras. Well, the equivalent of a business chakra is a power center, basically, of passion. And those power centers can be energized and can resonate with you when you're in a position to communicate. So we're trying to create that link between the person's internal power centers and what they're saying, and then what they're delivering, and then what they're causing. And so with her, in this case, we discovered that there was an underlying passion behind everything she was doing. And it wasn't necessarily exactly what she was saying, although part of it was. So what we did is we started to polish what we then ended up building was a 10-section course that would allow her to, through her passion, evolve people from where they were to where they can be if they go through this process with her. Then I encouraged her to look at what she does on stage as just one small component. And this is, again, what we talked about earlier. So when she did a presentation in the past, she got her check for, whatever it was, 20,000 or so, and on to the next one. And there are many, many speakers. So what we discussed and what I had helped her understand how to do is to go back to that individual who got her set up to book that speech and say, look, we are really just starting the process here. What I have in place for you is an entire group coaching program that we could execute remotely if you like, that takes what you just experienced in the room and brings it to all of the company, number one. Number two, it ensures that the transformation we began completes, and we follow through using the course material and the teachings and the group coaching that I deliver. And then besides booking, now she's booking consulting engagements at the same time.
Very
so nice. In the short period of time we worked together, her business basically doubled, and her testimonials on my website like everybody else's. And her business basically doubled. And then we went deeper because, again, these are just the beginnings. And we decided, how can we attract more people that would be her ideal clients? And that's when we discovered an even deeper well of passion as it related to a personal issue and a personal matter. And that's when a brand new program emerged from our work together, which is very common. That typically happens when I start working with somebody. We tap into primal areas of their being because that's what they're trying to communicate. After all, that's the gifts that we have that we've been trying to express and doing our best until a third party like me comes along, I'm a good observer. I can see things pretty clearly, and I just hold up the mirror and say, look, this is what I see. This is the passion that you haven't shown me yet, but it's right there. So let's work on that. And if they go, that's not really what I do. Again, I know I got it wrong, which is rare, but it happens. At that point, we continue the process until we get it. It's like a tuning fork until it resonates. And when it does, it's amazing what happens. I worked with an NFL football guy, and he played for the NFL for, I think, 5 years, and he did great. But ultimately he came out, he was lost. He didn't know what to do. So he bounced around for a number of years until he got on a call with me. And in the first session, we discovered what his true passion was. And we built a business around his true passion. And he was thrilled. And that has, well, it's kind of funny. I said to him, I said, well, what do you want to do? What do you like to do? I said, and I mean, it was more of a inquisitive process. But the core answer I got is, I like to climb mountains.
Wow.
I said, oh, okay, well, tell me about that. And then we got deeper into the process. And now what I'm understanding and I'm sensing is that this is not just like a hobby. This is, and I said, well, what's your goals? And I was trying to understand, where his inner passion was taking him, because inside our passion has a destination. It wants to take us somewhere. Generally, we have to find that. We don't know that. Not many people really do. But once you have a little bit of help, it's not hard to find. But what he really wanted to do is he wanted to climb the 7 summits of this planet. And that was his goal, to climb the 7 summits. So I said to him, what does it take to climb the 7 summits? And he started listing off all the qualities that it required. And I said, do you realize that those are the same qualities that every single human being needs to accomplish everything in their lives? So don't you realize, in a sense, that we all have our own 7 summits to climb? So why don't we build a program called Climbing Your 7 Summits? and use your backstory as the publicity to promote this and get it out there. And let's build a learning management system with your coursework. Let's build a group coaching program. Let's go further than that, and on until, I mean, he just got so excited at that point, and we just went right to work.
How did it work out?
That's what he's doing right now. That's what he does to this day. Has hundreds of thousands of followers.
Oh my.
And you know, he was a popular guy before because of his NFL status. But now, and he had a fantastic, we got him set up with a new podcast, and I coached him on how to take an interview and how to conduct an interview. And, it turned out that he's brought some amazing people to his show, which, like I have done myself, set it up so that his guests are his ideal clients. So when he speaks to a guest, he understands that the potential to sign them as a client is there. It doesn't mean it's the reason that they're talking, but that potential exists.
Very nice. Well, let me ask you this. When we had been talking before, and we have met before, for our audience, I know it doesn't look like we have, but we have. You mentioned that you build unconventional sales channels.
Right.
So give me an example.
Okay. So unconventional sales channels that I've built in the last year, in the last 2 quarters, I built an association for a friend and a partner. His name is Davin Michaels, and I had this idea and got him excited about the idea, and he hired me to build the channel with him. It's called the Virtual Entrepreneurs Association. I think it's VEA.org or virtualentrepreneursassociation.org, and it was amazing that we had built this before COVID, because it was just perfect, because so many of us now are working virtually, are working from home. And, he had a vision. It was his passion. It was something that he really wanted to do, is he wanted to help entrepreneurs all over the world. So we built that. Another unconventional sort of virtual sales channel that I built recently was for a woman whose name is Marisa Murgatroyd. She has a program called Live Your Message. And she hired me to build a more conventional, but slightly unconventional virtual sales program for her company. So what we did is we created a virtual sales environment, and we put in place all of the software and the infrastructure to do that. And then we started to hire people, and now she's selling virtually from all over the world. Probably the most repeated program is my certification program. Talk about unconventional. I mean, we can take a company that has its own intellectual property, and working with me, we build certification systems so that their best clients can become certified, which creates up to 4 different recurring revenue streams for my clients, and creates a powerful, exciting new profession for those who purchase certification. And the reason it's unconventional is because it's unlike coach certification, where you pay a bunch of money and then you get a certificate you could hang on the wall. What we do is we build a business model for everyone who enters your program, and we make sure that they make money. And if they don't make money, they don't recertify every year. And you want them to recertify every year. So that's why we put in place lead flow, lead generation, public relations, client management, all for you, meaning you being the certified partner when you join that program. This is also the topic of my book, Power Tribes, on how to do this.
I can see it in the back.
Yes. Tiny little dot in the back. Yeah.
And this is what I found fascinating about you. And by the way, I have a podcasting agent, Interview Connections. And I said, I met Mitch Russo, and they were like, oh my God, he's a celebrity. How did you get him? And I was like, well, I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I reached out to you, but you were kind enough to be a guest. So we're so lucky, everyone. We're so lucky.
Well, I'm the lucky one here. Come on, give me a break.
But you have worked with Tony Robbins, which is he's like a so well known that even grandmothers know who he is, grandmothers and children.
Yeah, that's
How
true.
about those days, those crazy heydays?
I know, huh? Well, I mean, Tony is an icon. He's a symbol of an entire generation. He is the creator of business and personal coaching. I mean, he is the founder in much of the industry that we work in today. I mean, he is an incredible individual. I love Tony very much. He became a friend over the years we worked together, and I can't say he's my buddy. I can hang out and have a beer with him, but I have his cell number and I can call him if I need to, or I have something I think would benefit him, I would. And from time to time we work together. So after we worked together for 5 years, several years later, he got me back involved, and I was able to help him with some radio advertising, build a radio campaign around an event that he was doing as well. So, here's what I learned about Tony that most people don't know. He is as genuine as he appears. So while he appears to be a certain persona in his public life, in his private life, he is genuinely and completely exactly the same way. He smiles a lot. He's a happy guy. He's incredibly intelligent. He has a piercing mind. He sees things others don't, because that's who he's training. That's the craft that he's honed after all these years.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's like he's like a human laser machine.
He is.
Right in.
So true.
So I mean, you have this huge podcast. Tell us about it. What's it called? How many have you done?
Yeah, I'm about to release my episode number 200. It's coming up real soon.
Ooh, party.
I know. I just released an episode with Seth Godin.
Yes.
And unfortunately I missed, I was so dumb. I should have aligned it so he was number 200, but it slipped my mind. But anyway, so that came out like last week or something. And now episode 200 comes out. It's a buddy of mine, so I know him. And he's someone, in fact, half the people on my show are friends or become friends later as a result. But the show is all about how people can get to 1,000 clients and beyond. That's why it's called Your First 1,000 Clients. And, I'm very transparent about why I did it and how I do it, because I think it should be copied. I think people should do this. I built this show to attract my ideal certification customer client type to my guest hot seat. So for example, when I speak with somebody on the show, not always, sometimes I just invite people because they'd be great guests. But in many cases, the people I'm inviting to the show are ideal clients. They are people who should be doing certification with me. And if they don't do it today, they may do it in a year from now or 6 months from now. But the bottom line is they get exposed to me and they understand what I do as a result of the show. And in return, what I'm doing is I'm giving them access. I have approximately 20,000 downloads a month now, and it's growing nicely. And we had a blip. Somehow I didn't, like last month, my feed got disconnected and I didn't know, and I don't know the technical term for it, but something happened. And so I went from like 20,000 a month down to like 2,000 a month, and nobody could figure out why until they realized there was a glitch. So we fixed the glitch and boom, it popped back up. So,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Anyway, so the other thing about the show is that I found that there's syndication available for certain types of podcasts. And I applied for and received, I was granted syndication with the C-Suite Network. So the show's syndicated by C-Suite Network, which means that there's access that my show gets into their network and to their systems that I wouldn't have otherwise. So that helps a lot too. And then of course, the other thing is that I try to ask my guests to participate in sharing what we talk about. So what that means is that when I bring somebody on, I'm asking them to please share the interview once it's aired, and they do. And that means that they're leaving iTunes reviews, that they're sending this to their own social networks, that they're posting on their websites. We give them a custom artwork whenever it is that they appear on the show. So they have this beautiful artwork that they can post. And so we do everything we can to make that happen. And then, of course, because we transcribe every word of every show and post it on my, on my own personal website, the SEO coming from that effort is off the charts. And so what's nice about that is that when I first started, my website would get 200 or 300 visits a month. At peak, it's gotten 7,000 to 8,000 visits a month, and I didn't pay for that. That's all coming from the transcriptions that are posted on the site.
These are such great, tips for all of us who do podcasts. Thank you so much. Now,
of course,
how can people who are watching this reach you, Mitch?
Oh, so simple. Just go to mitchrusso.com.
mitchrusso.com. That is simple.
Yeah. And it's easy to spell.
Yes, it's no Chala Dincoy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mitch, for being here and for all of the wisdom and for your time.